Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. Um, my bucket list is runneth over. Good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. Um, my bucket list is runneth over. Good evening. Welcome to our Rick, I'm hearing the audio live stream. My bucket list is runneth over. Good evening. I'm hearing the audio live stream. My bucket list is runneth over. Good evening. I'm hearing the audio live stream. I'm hearing the audio repeat, Rick. My bucket list is runneth over. Good evening. I'm hearing the audio live stream. I'm hearing the audio repeat, Rick. So, due to the technical difficulties, what I would like to do is bring my co-host on. I'm not sure if y'all are hearing it as well. So, due to the technical difficulties, what I would like to do is bring my co-host on. I'm not sure if y'all are hearing it as well. So, due to the technical difficulties, what I would like to do is bring my co-host on. I'm not sure if y'all are hearing it as well. This didn't happen last time. This didn't happen last time. This didn't happen last time.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Okay, so let's bring Jeremy on, Eri, and if my audio is messed up, then I'll just let you two talk. So let's try that. So let's bring Jeremy.
Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Right. I thought Scott's intro was kind of epic. It was almost like we were on LSD or something. It was yeah. I thought it was just me at first. I was like, I didn't take any drugs in the last couple of years, so I don't know. How are you?
I'm really good. I'll help him out here. I'm really pleased to have been invited onto his channel.
Yeah.
He's one of the most sincere, passionate, active guys in the community. So it's nice to join him, and I'm really happy that you got all suited up for this. Wow.
I just came home from work and I kept my clothes on. That's about it. And so, and what time is it for you? You're
it's just after 10 in the morning. Yeah, I was. That's funny. So I'm up and at 'em, and on the thing, because in Japan, and I know you have lived in Japan, so you'll really be able to understand this. There's always this lost in translation, especially when you do direct translations. Mm-hmm. Moms in Japan often tell their kids, "Apu, apu, apu, adamu." It's the it's the Astro Boy, from the 1952 famous manga. But also, too, in the West, there's the "Up and Atom," which is a military slogan that evolved from World War II. Mm-hmm. No, actually World War I. I checked it out. And so when I put "I'm up and atom" and I spelled it ATOM, in my brain, I was thinking, Adamu, And someone said, no, it's not Atom, ATOM, it's up and at them, But
the
that's
name.
So common to have that lost in translation. So yes. I was curious, when you did live in Japan, I would love to hear your funniest lost in translation story, because I know everybody has them.
It's been so long, but it's weird, but my most vivid memory of Japan is that Arnold Schwarzenegger commercial where it was sorry, hige, sorry.
Was
So,
he shaving his
he was
beard?
shaving, yeah.
I never saw that, so it was probably you were here before I came to Japan.
I was like, it was 94, 95 is when I was there.
Yeah, that's before my time. I remember the it's Suntory time. Do you remember that one?
They have the best commercials. They really do.
Yeah, that went on for years, and then now they have the Boss. You remember Boss coffee in the can? Boss.
Oh
coffee.
God, yeah. Oh yes, I do.
Yeah.
That was back when I could drink and eat whatever I want and stay slim. Long ago. Scott, how are you doing?
Yes, and I need to make a sincere apology. I had the live stream open in another tab, and that's why I was getting the reverb. So I apologize for that. I'd like to introduce Eri again. Ever since I got into the XRP army, she has been my favorite influencer, and anybody that ever follows me, I always refer to her in Twitter as our standard. And part of the reason that this is such a great experience for me tonight, after such an audacious beginning, is that I refer to her as our standard. And I really, really like this lady. And it is an honor that she decided to come on and have a chat with us, Jeremy. And then to you, I've been following you, and one of the things that, as a career salesperson, one of the things that I need to do is to try to size people up. And it's always refreshing to run into somebody that when they speak so loudly that who they are comes across, not so much what they say. And if I get to be able to be a combination of 5 people, if I hang around them for the next 5 years, hanging around them, and then the books that I read, you are 2 of the people that if I have the opportunity to spend time with, I'm going to be a real badass in about 5 years. And so thank you very much for joining us. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Eri, and she can kick it off and begin to ask some of the questions that she has for you. But again, I cannot thank the both of you enough for coming and doing this with me.
Thank you, Scott.
I just want to give a shout out to Tanvu for her editing skills, Jeremy, because she does such a great job. I just want to be sure to get that in so I don't forget.
Yeah.
I used my Patreon group to ask the questions, and they came up with a couple that are really good. And I'd like to just start off with those. Just hit, if you're ready, just to hit kind of some of the questions that are out there in the community.
Sure, absolutely. And thanks for mentioning Tenvu. She's always behind the scenes, but the videos don't happen without her. They really don't, because I can shoot those in about an hour, even with all my mistakes and mess ups. But it's really, you know how it is, Eri. It's the 2 or 3 hours of editing afterwards that really is the hard work. So thanks for acknowledging that.
Yeah, I think she does a lot of great work. I started doing more editing. It was kind of my goal for the start of 2022. And I'm glad I did, because I always like to learn something new. But boy, it just adds complexity and time. Yeah. All right, so getting right to it. Somebody wants to know, how much faith do you have in the judicial system? Because justice and objectivity are inversely proportional to the financial stakes. I thought that was a pretty deep, heavy question to lead off with, but it's good. Any comments on that? Yeah,
you said inversely proportional. It made me think back. I'm in high school in math class. Well, let me just say this. I've been practicing law since 2003. My dad was a lawyer, so I was involved, with him in his legal practice at some level. And what I think is that the judiciary gets things right more often than it gets it wrong. And there's a couple levels of layers to that. I think that the jury system is the best system there is in the world. Unfortunately, I don't think that the Ripple part of the Ripple case gets to a jury. I think it's going to be decided by a judge. That always has me concerned, because now you're talking about one person with all of their all the things that they bring to the table, all the baggage, or maybe the misunderstandings they have about certain things. That always makes me concerned. So I think that I have a lot of faith in the U.S. judicial system. I really do. I'd have more faith in the jury system and 6 or 12 people making a decision than one judge. But there is a check and balance on the judge as well, because that's what the appellate courts are for. So the judge is going to have to think very hard and long about their decision. But I think she's going to get it right. And I've talked about this a lot, I think, in some of my videos, is I've done a lot of research on the judge, just like I would do on any other case. And I think that Judge Torres has a heart. I really think she has a heart. And that's why I think that John's involvement in the case and the 65,000 XRP holders is so important, because she is not the kind of judge that is going to want to screw over 65,000 people or more, or a lot more, to be honest. So I really think that the judge is going to take the time and try to get it right. And I think at the end of the day, more often than not, our judicial system does get it right. So I have a lot of faith in it. I really do.
That makes me feel much better. Someone also wanted to know about Judge Torres, and has she ever had a case before with the SEC? So I actually did a little research, and she's, of course, being in the Southern District of New York, and you would expect she would have a lot, because that's the financial district, right? And so she has the SEC versus Boards, which was a college official concealing financial troubles. She even had the SEC versus Rio Tinto. She's had a lot of high profile cases. So the question I had, and I really don't know this, I'm sure that when you are possibly getting close to going to trial in some of your cases, there's certain judges that have certain reputations, and I'm sure you kind of hope, because people talk behind the scenes. I'm sure the attorneys, oh, this is a great judge, or this is a real difficult judge. Mm-hmm. But I was curious, because I actually don't know, how is a judge assigned to a case? I just don't know that.
So in the federal court system, I do believe that it's there's random assignments. In Florida, the courts that I practice in, they're assigned a little bit differently, but they're essentially random. So I guess the short answer to your question is it's a random assignment to the judge.
I got it. Okay.
And it's usually on a rotating basis, so that the judges have about the same number of cases. So
they're all weighing those caseloads, aren't they?
Yeah. And the thing you have to realize about these judges, that I don't know if a lot of people do, but they have all sorts of different kinds of cases. And being a judge is extremely hard, because you have to know all different areas of law. And most attorneys only practice one area of law, and they could practice one area of law their whole life. I'm a little bit of I'm not normal, because I've practiced many different areas of law over the last 20 years. But, Judge Torres has criminal cases. She has securities cases. She has, everything under the sun, employment cases, unpaid overtime. And so she has to know all these different areas of law. So that's a good question, though, because I honestly did not know if she had ever heard an SEC case before.
Yeah, I did a kind of refined search, went all the way back to 2005 to 2019, and a few popped up. So she has had experience. Another question was the long game, because we're seeing a lot of delays. And this person is just feeling, I think, a little tired of the delays. But I'm kind of wondering, do you think that the judge is granting these delays for a strategy on her part to make sure that it's trying to limit an appeal? And also, do you think that the SEC is doing this delay? Well, obviously are, because they're doing it with the kick case too. Is that part of their strategy? And I just would like to hear you weigh in on why we are seeing so much delay, or maybe that's common.
Well, first off, I share your frustration. Trust me, I do. I share everyone's frustration when I see an extension granted, and that's why I get kind of irritated about it as well. I just want this case to move forward, and let's get to some conclusion. The first part of your question about why the judge is doing this, I really don't think, I see this on Twitter sometimes, and I think it's a little bit trying to explain it away as saying, well, the judge is doing it to make sure that there's not an appeal or an appealable issue. I really don't think that's why the judge is doing it, because the amount of time someone has in which to file something, as long as it's within the rules of the court, doesn't count towards an appeal. In other words, you can't appeal something and say, well, I didn't have time to do it properly, and therefore I'm appealing the order from the judge. There's no such thing as an appeal because I didn't have the time to get it done. I mean, you got to get it done. And that's why attorneys stress out a lot, because they're always under time constraints. They're staying up until 1 o'clock to get something done and filed. So I don't think that's why the judge is doing it. Usually a judge is just going to be very cognizant of attorneys' times. And some judges are nicer than others. There's some judges where you're going to go to them and say, I need an extra day to file something. And then he goes, well, nope, here's my rule book. There's the date. That's the time frame you have to do it. It's due at 12 o'clock tonight, Mr. Hogan, goodbye. And that's what you're going to get. Judge Netburn has proven to be very nice and very accommodating, and especially to the SEC, because it's the SEC that's actually requesting the extension. So I think it's just a matter of courtesy when someone comes to the judge and says, Judge, we just can't get this done. Look at all the things that are going on. We have depositions that haven't been taken. We have to get ready for those. We have to take them. And then we have to spend, another 20 hours to draft this brief. We just can't get it done in time. And we need an extra 2 weeks. Usually the judge is going to grant those. Now you kind of want at some point the judge to say, no, that's enough. You've had enough time. I'm going to, put the hammer down, and now is the time you're going to get it done. And so far from Judge Netburn, we haven't really seen that. She didn't grant the SEC all of the time it requested a couple weeks ago. She gave it like an extra 2 or 3 weeks instead of an extra 4 weeks. But let's just put it this way. She's been very nice and very accommodating to the SEC. Now, the second part of your question, why is the SEC requesting all of these extensions? I believe, and I'm not the last and final word on this, but I believe this is part of their litigation strategy. It's any private company hates to be in litigation, and especially Ripple, because they want to do an IPO. They can't do the IPO until this case is over. They're just bleeding money because they've got a gazillion attorneys on payroll right now, and these attorneys are billing them at $500-600 an hour for everything that they do. So, they're getting those bills. It's holding up their business. It's stressful. All the employees are keeping the tabs on what's going on in the case. And so if I was the SEC, and, I say litigation is war, and to an extent it really is. And this would be not a legitimate strategy, but it would be a strategy to put the pressure on Ripple. The only reason, though, that I hate to already be talking about the S word, but the only reason it makes any sense to be applying that pressure is not because it helps you at summary judgment or at trial. The reason you put that pressure on someone is to get them to come to you and say, hey, can we talk about settlement, please? Because this is really starting to wear on me, and I want to get this case over with.
It's great explanation. I think it helps us digest these delays. All right, the next question, which is one that I thought, wow, should I ask this? This comes from a banker in my Patreon group. He wanted to know, if you were working for the SEC, how would you fight this case?
I thought the question was just, are you working for the SEC? I was like, oh, man. Okay. Well, yes. Okay. If I'm working for the SEC, they honestly do not have a bad strategy right now. If you are an SEC attorney in this case, what you're trying to do is you're trying to frame it in the exact same way that Judge Torres has seen these cases framed before when she's ruled on behalf of the SEC. So you're trying to keep it really simple. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to just go to the judge, and you're going to get all the evidence you can, of course. But what you're going to do is you're going to say, Judge, when these people bought XRP, the only use for it, or the only use cases, were something that Ripple had developed. Otherwise, it was just an inert, a piece of ledger on a computer, Judge. And so they were absolutely looking to Ripple to increase the value of the XRP. It's simple. And what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to downplay the fair notice defense. And what they're going to say is we've had the Howey test since 1934. It's clear what it requires. It's clear what the 4 parts of the test is. We learned this in our first year of law school, how to read these tests. There's no reason that Ripple couldn't have read these tests back in 2013. And we are not required as the SEC to go to every token holder, or to every company that's involved with cryptocurrencies, and explain to them what the law is and whether they are in violation or not, because there's 10,000 of them, and that's just impossible to do. So you're going to keep the Section 5 violation simple. You're just going to say, look, this is just a run-of-the-mill. Were they looking to Ripple for profit or not? Judge, they absolutely are looking to Ripple for profit. And you're going to say, I don't have to explain to them whether they're in violation of the law or not. That's not my job as a regulator. I'm the police. If someone breaks the law, I arrest them and I take them to jail. I'm not out there explaining to them what jaywalking is. So that's going to be the SEC's position. And that's basically what I think they're doing. I think that's what they're trying to do. What we don't know is how much evidence they have to back that up, but that will 100% be how they're going to approach the case.
Well, then I'm going to jump to the question that someone had, that with 17,500 projects, I don't know if that number is correct, but that's the number that they wrote. How in the world is the SEC going to protect investors, so-called, or move forward if there's so many projects? How are they going to handle this? Is it through scaring everybody with the outcome of what will happen with this case?
Absolutely. It's called, it's enforcement. It's regulation by enforcement. So the idea is, if who was the company that just got hit or just settled for $100 million?
SoFi.
Was it SoFi?
The yield lending for $100 million, and then also another $50 million, I guess, kicked in for some other purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. I just forget the name of the company. But
SoFi.
SoFi.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna
I thought it was BlockFi.
BlockFi.
Oh, BlockFi. Sorry, I knew the phi was in there.
It's okay.
It's BlockFi.
You remembered more than I did. So with BlockFi, that's a big number, and there's a lot of companies that would not survive or be able to pay out $100 million. I mean, very few would be able to pay $100 million and continue in business, right? So the idea is that the SEC, gets big verdicts and big judgments and big settlements, and they publicize them, and everyone else in the industry is supposed to look at that and be like, oh, I don't want to have to pay $100 million. My business would go out of business. And then they're supposed to roll into the SEC and say, okay, here I am. I'm ready to get registered and do whatever, I have to do. So that's the whole idea. And really the SEC has to do that, because the truth is, I mean, they don't have the litigation staff to pursue every project. I mean, if every project that had an ICO is sued by the SEC would need to have almost every lawyer in America on staff. I mean, it's just the truth of the matter, because everyone had an ICO, right? I mean, I can't imagine everyone up until a certain point had an ICO. Now they're getting a little more creative. So the SEC just doesn't have the staff to sue everyone. And so what they have to do is they take on certain projects and then they publicize them, which leads me to, I'm kind of wandering around here a little bit, but the idea here, and what the SEC has been doing, is they've been kind of step laddering their projects as they gain more experience in the industry. You can almost see them like start with really small projects that really couldn't fight them, that would just cave. And then once they did that, and then they finally got up to the Kin token, right? They got the Kick Interactive case. That was a big one for them. Kick put up a fight and they lost. And then they were able to publicize that and say, here's what we got out of the Kick Interactive case. And then finally they reached Ripple. So they've kind of been working their way up the ladder. Like the early cases were really small projects, they didn't even have the money to lawyer up. And then they kind of worked their way up, and now they're up at Ripple. And then Gary Gensler is saying they're going to sue Ethereum today or something. I didn't say
Yeah. Well, jumping really just quick to Attorney John Deaton, he tweeted out a prediction, and it made me just take pause. He said that Gensler is going to have to testify in front of Congress, and he thinks that he will resign next year. I just want to hear your comment to that.
I didn't see that tweet. John's a smart guy, so if he says it, I wouldn't bet against it, but I just don't see why he would. I mean, I'm not into politics and I don't really follow it. In the crypto space, my time is limited, so I'm really kind of laser focused on the case, and I don't get too much astray from that just because I don't have the time to really keep up on everything. But I'd be surprised if Gensler steps down even next year. I mean, he's a banker, but from there he became a career politician. And politicians, in my experience, they're there for the power and for the moving upness in it. So I think Gensler has his sights set on something other than the SEC chair.
Yeah, I think people remember that it's maybe the Treasury. How about any thoughts on Senator Warren writing her crypto bill? Sorry, I won't laugh.
I can't talk.
You don't have to answer. If you can say pass.
That's
I'm going to get it together. Hold on. Okay. Well, I got to pass on that one. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say.
It's okay.
If you can't say anything nice, I guess. I don't know I mean, we've had so many bills, right, that come out and they just disappear. I don't know if she's going to be able to get bipartisan support for it, but good luck to her. That's all I can say. Good luck with her bill.
That's a good answer. You did a video with your father, which I thought was just great. And the story that you also have about being attracted to practice law was with your father, I think, helping a single mom who was a little bit afraid of losing her children in a divorce case. I'm just kind of curious, and this goes to more of a personal question. If you had not pursued law, what do you think you would have done? What would have been your other choice of career?
That's a good question. I mean, I probably would be a teacher. And, I was teaching in Japan, and then I was teaching right out of college. And I really enjoyed teaching the kids. That was really something that you could, at the end of the day, feel good about what you're doing. There's just no evil in little kids, especially. Now there's evil in high school kids, which I taught. So I'm just joking. Now I taught high school kids, which were great, but their home runs are everywhere. It was tough. It was really tough. But yeah, the short answer is I'd probably be a teacher.
Yeah, it's good. Scott, go ahead. I need to let Chibi out. He's just crying. I don't want to disturb everyone with
not a problem.
I'll be right back.
Not a problem. Okay, Jeremy, first of all, I ask you on Twitter regularly, if you were the SEC attorney, what would you do? I didn't get to ask you about the last happenstance in the case, which was the SEC discovering, oh my gosh, we've got 1,000 pages worth of stuff going from Hinman to whoever. So my first question to you would be, if you were Tiniero, I believe that's his name, Jorge, if you were Jorge and you saw that curveball come at you, how would you try to defend that?
When you have a curveball come at you in court, there's only two ways to address it. You address it head on or you bury it. And with the 1,000 emails or whatever it was, how I would do it, I'd probably try to address it head on, but the SEC obviously is just trying to bury it.
Got it. And
I don't know if that answered your question, but
yes, it did.
There's only two things to do with that.
And we had a super chat here, and I wanted to post that. Rick, you've got that? Came from Chris. It was a garage band question. So, do you play any musical instruments?
I strum the guitar, but if I was to be in a garage band, and I'm still trying to get it together, I would definitely be the lead singer.
Okay, there we go. And we appreciate that, Chris. And then from one of our messaging brigade members, we had a question. So let me grab that real quick. It's a little long, but hold on one second and I'll read that to you. It was from Moises, who you got to meet a little bit earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
He said this was the question to end all questions.
That's exactly what he said. And I would be amiss if I didn't ask this question then. If I was able to ask Jeremy in person, I would want to ask this. So the question is, since the SEC doesn't want to give clarity, can we ask the court to do so, or ask the judge to compel the SEC to do so for XRP so this doesn't happen again? Or can we ask the judge to force the SEC to explain how XRP satisfies the 4 pillars of the Howey test?
I think I understand what he's saying, and the answer is this. So the judge's opinion is going to have some stare decisis or some effect as to other cases. So, you know, the American legal system is built on the cases that go before lay the foundation and the law for what comes after. So what the judge decides in this case is going to have some effect on later cases. Now, obviously, it's not binding because it's just a trial court judge. But because the SEC has filed a lawsuit so broad, they start from 2013, they go up to the present. And as John points out, they're even alleging that current sales of XRP are still sales of securities. Because they've alleged it so broad, as far as this lawsuit is concerned, the judge's order is going to cover all of those issues. It's going to cover sales from 2013 to present. It's going to cover continuing sales of XRP. If the judge finds, for example, I'm just throwing this out there. Let's say the judge finds that sales of XRP from 2013 to 2015 were sales of securities, and then that's all she says. As far as this lawsuit is concerned, and as far as the precedential value of the case, that's all that sales of XRP were. That's the only sales of XRP that were securities from that period of time. And then from 2015 on, they're not sales of securities. So all of those issues are going to be covered by this judge's order. It's not like she's going to be able to get away with saying certain things and then leaving other things unsaid. She's going to have to cover all of the allegations in the lawsuit because the judge has to do that in her order. And she's going to have to give a reasoned order. So she's going to have to say why she believes that. So I hope that covers his question. But I think what he's asking is the judge going to be able to leave some things undetermined? And the answer is no.
Right. And we have another super chat question that I believe Rick is going to pop up for us. And in the meantime, I had another one. Oh, there you go. Can you read it, or I need to read it to you, Jeremy?
Oh, yeah, I got it. Why is Gary Gensler so corrupt? Did you watch Gary versus Liz today? Will the case most likely be dismissed by the SEC? All right. Well, here's what I have to say to that. So I have not been very involved or put a lot of thoughts out on the issues involving Mr. Gensler, Mr. Hinman. And the reason I haven't done that is this. In a lawsuit, you have shelves. And in this Ripple versus SEC lawsuit, we have 3 major shelves. The first shelf is XRP a security? That's the Section 5 shelf. Then you have the fair notice defense shelf. And the third one really is jurisdiction. Can you prove that Americans bought XRP and who bought it and when, right? So you have 3 major issues in the case. And I'm laser focused on the case. When I see things about Hinman taking payments from law firms and this and that, and possible conflicts of interest with Gary Gensler and those type of things, my mind is instantly thinking, which shelf does that fit on? And right now, I can't fit those issues onto any shelf. It has nothing to do with whether XRP is a security. It really doesn't have anything to do with the fair notice defense. Obviously, Mr. Hinman's speech does, but payments he may have received or not received for what they were received for doesn't really fit into that fair notice defense shelf, and it doesn't fit into a jurisdictional shelf. So I really don't have too much thought, and I haven't put too much thought into any of those issues. They might be different legal issues. Mr. Hinman might be in trouble. He might be arrested. I don't know. But as far as the lawsuit, I just don't see how it fits into something that's going to go in front of the judge. And therefore, I haven't really put too much thought into it or really kind of analyzed it too much.
And Rick, we have another super chat. And then I have one more question, and then I'll turn it back to you, Eri.
Did you notice between the share buyback Ripple did and the $1 billion in the bank account, that totals $1.3 billion? Just a coincidence. Either the lawsuit amount, I think it was a shot at the You know, if Ripple put that much thought into that, I would be both shocked and amazed. Yeah, what he's saying is that the lawsuit alleged the total damages in the lawsuit were $1.3 billion. And apparently with the recent sale, they have $1.3 billion in the bank. So I don't know, Ripple's got some smart people, but I'd be surprised if that was the basis for that.
Okay, and I had a question from Nathan Smith, and he says, ask him if he thinks Ripple will win the case ultimately, and if they don't, what is the future of the XRP token? And then after you answer that, Eri, step back in, please.
Well, that's a big question. So the short answer to whether XRP, whether Ripple's going to win the case is there's just no way of knowing. Right now, let's just say there's 100 points of evidence out there. We've only seen 5 or 10. So without seeing the evidence, I can't really even give you a guess. What I can say is that so far the litigation has gone very well from Ripple's perspective. But I've only seen 5 pieces of real hard evidence so far. So I just don't know. On February 17, some documents are going to be unsealed and we'll be able to see those for the first time. That's real evidence. What Ripple's attorneys in 2012, they gave them an opinion as to whether they thought XRP was a security. That's real evidence. That's something that we can analyze and look at. The depositions are real evidence. But, all the hearings up to this point, I really just haven't seen very much. So if I told you I think Ripple's going to win or I think Ripple's going to lose, I would just be it's just a guess as good as yours because I haven't seen any of the evidence. The one thing I do know is that, especially in recent years, most cases settle. And that's what I've said from the beginning. And it's just the truth of the matter. Most of my cases settle. Most of Ripple's cases settle. Most of the SEC's cases settle. So this is the type of case that could go all the way. But I still think the most probable resolution here is a settlement. And that hasn't changed since the beginning.
I just have one last question. And that is, since this is being looked at carefully by the magistrate judge, the Netburn, does the Honorable Annalisa Torres talk with Judge Netburn on an ongoing basis to keep her up to date as to the developments, or does Judge Torres just have to rely on all the documentation? I mean, how is she able to keep up with everything?
So apparently the way they do it in the NYSD is, Judge Netburn is Judge Netburn is the discovery judge. So she's in charge of all these little or big fights about discovery. What can be seen, what's sealed, what's not sealed, whether they get those emails, whether they don't, whether they can take the deposition, whether they can't. So apparently Judge Netburn just takes it from the beginning up to the point when all of the discovery is finished. And then Judge Torres is going to jump on. And that's why I was kind of excited because that transition is kind of happening. And from this point forward, we're basically going to be seeing Judge Torres' name more and more. I don't have any personal knowledge about how they do it in New York, but here in Florida, absolutely the judges talk. So Judge Netburn would be talking to Judge Torres and kind of keeping her up to date on what's happening on a case, especially a big case like this. They might not be discussing it that much at this point, but when that handoff occurs, I can't imagine that they're not going to have some discussion about what's gone on to this point. So, and the other thing you have to keep in mind is in federal court and federal judges, they have clerks that write most of their opinions. And so, Judge Torres isn't sitting there at her computer late at night, typing away on opinions. She's going to discuss with Netburn, look at the evidence. She's going to come up with what she wants her ruling to say. And she's going to have clerks that are going to write it for her, essentially. So the short answer is yes. Judge Netburn and Judge Torres, they have to talk. They have to discuss it. How much I don't know exactly, but they just work. They work too intimately, not for that to happen.
Yeah, that's interesting for me to know. I just have one last comment, Scott, and that was just to say when I took a peek at Jeremy's website, your Hogan Law website, I just want to say that's great. You are really you have such a strong team with a lot of women on your team. I just wanted to say I thought that was really great.
Yeah, well, I ain't no dummy. I know who rules the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott. I've got through my questions. I think all the answers were fantastic. So I'm gonna hand it back over to you.
Okay. Well, we've got some super chats that Rick is going to pop in. So Rick, or there you go, Jeremy.
In the previous hearing, the judge stated her understanding of XRP is that it has utility and a currency value. Does that statement hold any weight? Yeah, I remember her saying that because obviously that jumps out at you when the judge kind of threw that out. She had some misstatements in that first hearing. She just made some inaccuracies. But the reason I like that is because it obviously plays into what Ripple is trying to do, where they're trying to say that XRP is like Ripple. I mean, that XRP is like Ethereum. And that therefore, since Hinman said Ethereum is not a security, XRP is not a security. And when she said that, it was pretty much straight on with that line of thinking. Because it has utility and it has an intrinsic value, it's just like Ethereum, which is basically what Hinman was saying about the Ether token. So I think it's really important that she said that, and especially saying that early in the proceedings, I thought was a really good sign. Will we ever get the corruption or collusion of the SEC addressed? You know, if I have to be honest with you, I don't think so. I don't think that at least in the context of this case, that is going to happen. Maybe it's because I'm old and I've just seen too much stuff happen that it never gets addressed and is never rooted out. And so I'm not saying it can't happen, but the truth is, I don't even think there'll be an investigation. I really think that these things happen all the time. And, you know, working in the government and for the SEC, there's an obvious path there, right? You get out of law school, you go to Georgetown, you go to a good school, you get a job at the SEC, you put in your time, you put in your 5 years, you put in your 10 years. You know, government employees, government attorneys are making $180,000, $190,000, which is a lot of money, but it's not, you're going to retire rich money, right? You make a name for yourself. You become a Matthew Solomon or someone who, you know, knows the ins and outs of the SEC. Then what do? You go get a job at the big law firm and you make 5 times that much money. And that's just the nature of the beast. And I think it's always going to be the nature of the beast, unfortunately, because that's just human nature, how things are going to go when you're in those roles. And why did the big law firms hire you? The big law firms hire you because they know you're friends with all the guys that are over there suing their companies that they're going to represent. And you can pick up the phone, or you might even have the cell phone of one of the SEC lawyers and say, "Hey, John, this is Jeremy. Hey, let's get together on that case and see what we can work out." The case that just settled not the SoFi, but the
BlockFi.
The gentleman who left the SEC last year, I think his last name is Dugan, then went to work for BlockFi, and now we have a settlement of their issues with the SEC. So obviously, you know, that paid off for them if it was good for them in the long run, because Mr. Dugan was able to have the connections and say, look, we want to come in, we want to get registered, we want to do this right, work with us. And someone over there was his friend or liked him, and that made that smooth the wheels and made that happen. And I just think that's always been the way it's worked. And I just see, you know, as far as my life is concerned, that will be the way it's always going to work.
It just kind of reminds me of the revolving door business. You know, there's a lot of talk about the revolving door being so a downside to our system. I just would be curious to hear any thoughts on that.
What do you mean a revolving door, like in government?
Yeah, the way that it revolved, you know, that you're going in and out of this revolving door from government to private to government to private.
Yeah. I mean that's not. I mean, kind of, it's another way of saying crony capitalism, and in a sense, and that's not just in the U.S. I mean, that's worldwide. I mean, I've lived in I lived in Japan, I lived in Guam, I've lived in a couple different places, and it's all the same everywhere I've ever gone and anywhere I've ever lived, and I just don't see it changing. I am meeting with my state rep to talk about crypto on Friday. What do you think would be the most effective way to bring these issues up? Well, I really think, and I've thought this since the beginning, is that, crypto is such a strange area, and I'm not an expert in crypto by any means, but it's backwards. A normal company raises capital and then does a business, right? And crypto tries to do it the same way, but their business is not in place at the time when they start the company. So they start a railroad company without any railroad tracks, right? They build the fuel for the trains, but there's no tracks. And then they go out and they build the tracks. So it's backwards. And that's, I think, why at the heart of why our current regulatory system just doesn't work when it comes to crypto. So, instead of going into, the corruption and the things that are kind of hot topics on Twitter, I'd focus on that with my, if you're meeting with your representatives, I say, look, we need a way to allow the way these companies are built, which is you build the fuel first and then you build the roads later. That needs a separate system than what we have now for regular companies. The way that Ripple operates Ripple can't be regulated the way Apple's regulated, because the whole business model is completely backwards, right? So I think if you approach it from that standpoint and you focus on, we need new regulations, new laws just for the crypto space, I think that's the way that we might get some action going. And if you're meeting with Senator Warren, good luck. Given that Ripple operates worldwide, what effect will it? Well, that's a great question. I mean, that's something that I've thought of. And honestly, Eri has a lot more breadth of knowledge in the crypto space than I do. I have a deep knowledge of a very narrow issue. Eri is, she knows, what's going on in the world of crypto. I mean, she really knows her stuff. That's probably a question that Eri could answer better than me. But my initial thoughts were that it would not be good. I mean, you could say that, well, it's just the US and this, but a lot of money flows through the US. And when you're a remittance company or when you're dealing with banking, if you don't have the US on your customer list, that hurts. I mean, that takes off a big chunk of change. That's about 50% of the world's economy flowing through, the US at some point. So I don't know, Eri, if you agree, but I think it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that we heard from somebody who's consulting right now on the team for the Bank of England, and they say that they pay attention, they're watching it, but they don't feel like it's going to move them in a direction. But I think that I actually think what happens in this case will have an effect in some other countries. So I think it's very important that the United States be part of that economic equation for everybody going forward, in especially in payments.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeremy, I also had a Moises number 2 question real quick. He had chimed in and said, what would happen if the SEC saw that they were not going to win and then they just decided to withdraw the case? How would that affect the XRP and the community? Because then we don't have any more clarity, I don't believe, than we do right now. So that would seem to be, to me personally, the worst case scenario, is if the SEC just says, puts up the white flag and says, ain't no way we can win this.
Right. Well, I really don't think that's going to happen. And I know John is concerned about that as well. I'm not as concerned about it. And also, there is some kind of clarity comes with a dismissal. Now, it's true that legally, you can file a lawsuit and dismiss it once and then refile it again. The second time you dismiss it, it's dismissed forever, and it's like you've lost. But really, a dismissal of the Ripple lawsuit is a loss for the SEC, because everyone knows what it means. Everyone knows it's going to mean that they were going to lose. The only downside that would come from a dismissal is if the exchanges don't feel confident enough with that dismissal to relist XRP. And I don't know what effect that has if that's the case, but really a dismissal of the lawsuit is a win for Ripple. I mean, a 95% win, you know? So I think that would give a lot of more clarity than people might think, because when Ripple dismisses the lawsuit and says, that's it, we're just dismissing and walking away, you know, that's the same thing as saying we can't win, which is the same thing as saying we were going to lose. And that's a lot of clarity right there, even though it might not be kind of what we're hoping for.
And I didn't want to do too much self-promotion, but it's not really self-promotion. One of the things that we have been doing with the XRP Army channel and community, and we just recently put together the messaging brigade. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, Jeremy, is that you had mentioned about politicians. One of the things that we want to do is to be able to, we believe that we're stronger together. And, you know, I believe that John's suit has 65,000 people, and that is stronger than if it was 5. And what we're trying to do is sort of rally the troops together and then direct to everyone messaging, say, a politician. And if we can get them, you know, if we can get their attention more, I think that benefits all of us. And so do you feel like that the mission of the messaging brigade is something that would be helpful if we can get people in the community to participate?
Well, you know, obviously I'm on your side on this, and you have no idea how important it is. And I can't talk about the political side of it, but you have no idea how important it is to have John and 65,000 people involved in this lawsuit. And when John first came out and was trying to get in, I think I did a video and I said, look, this is so key, because you're going to have 65,000, 70,000 people saying, this lawsuit's hurting me, I don't want it, when the whole purpose of the SEC is to protect these people. And so, you know, when the judge sees that, you know, that's going to have to sway her in her thinking and say, what's going on here? Now, what is this lawsuit really going to do? And, you know, and as far as, you know, politicians are politicians, and you know, money talks. So I don't know, you know, if an organized group of people on a mission are enough to move politicians, because they're just so focused on money. But I think that 65,000 people who are each willing to put in 10 XRP or 20 XRP to a coffer, and that, I think that's where your true power comes from. Not that it's bad that you get your voice out there or not. Maybe I'm cynical, but you know, money talks in the political world, and I think that's what will really get some attention.
And did you have? Oh, there's a super chat. Go ahead. Sorry.
Given that Ripple's goal is to achieve regulatory clarity, what would need to happen from a legal standpoint? Yeah, so they're asking about a settlement and how you could have clarity in a settlement. So, you know, what we see in these settlements is that the SEC is willing to work on certain language. Like in the Kick Interactive case, the SEC was willing to agree to have certain language in there that gave the KIN token and Kick Interactive the clarity moving forward. So if you go on CoinGecko or whatever and you search for the KIN token, you're going to find it. It's still trading. Kick Interactive is still alive and doing their business, and I don't know how well they're doing. But the point is that settlement agreement allowed them to move forward with their business model. And so I think Ripple, if the SEC and Ripple can come to an agreement, I think you're going to be able to get some language put together that's going to give Ripple the clarity it needs, while giving the SEC the big publicity posting that it wants, saying we won and this is what we got from Ripple and we're going to do this and that. So each party has certain things that they want. I think they're compatible. I think they really are compatible to have a settlement agreement where both sides can get what they want and everything can be over.
Excellent. And Jeremy, was there any type of a topic or any kind of thing that you wanted to share about your day, or what you had for dinner, or any television show you're looking forward to after we wrap up? Anything at all like that?
No, the truth is that this journey for me started you've been around for a long time, both of you, I'm sure. And it started for me back in January of last year. So it's really been a whirlwind. I mean, I had a Coinbase account and I had like 1 Bitcoin and like to Ethereum, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm so cool. I'm a crypto guy or whatever." And I didn't know what a blockchain was or a ledger or anything. And just one day I was like looking at this case, and I was like, I can't remember what it was, but I was looking. I saw the case, and I knew it was a big deal. And I was online somewhere, and everyone was doom and gloom. It was just horrible. I mean, oh, this, the sky's falling, and the price was going down. And I just looked at the lawsuit, and I was like, this is not a slam dunk lawsuit. And so I told my wife, I said, I want to do a video on this. So I got a book, and I was reading the book on the how blockchain works and everything. And then I did the video on it, and then it kind of, my journey started at that point, really. And now I have like a wallet. I have my ledger. So now I really am like one of the group. So that's my story. And but the funnest thing is you get to meet people from all over the world. I mean, crypto is such a, you talk to people from UK, Japan. I don't know where you're at, Scott, but Switzerland. I mean, Korea. A kid in Korea interviewed me the other day. He did a great job, and I'm just sitting there. How cool is this that we're all on the computer and we're all talking about. He's asking me all these questions about a U.S. legal case, and he's a Korean student, studying English, in South Korea. It's just very cool to be able to meet people from all over the world on Twitter and through crypto, really. So it's kind of really, really cool that it brings people together, and that's, for me, has been the best part of it.
Well, I've been in crypto so long, I had a full head of hair, and it all moved down my face somehow. This has been a very strange experience for me. We're going to probably begin to wind down now because I don't want to keep you guys longer. And I'm in North Carolina, by the way. I don't know if you could tell by the accent, but
my uncle's up there near Raleigh.
Yeah, I'm 15 minutes from Raleigh. If
you get hit by a golf ball, that's my uncle playing.
Yeah, I've got my Augusta ball marker here. So yeah, I'm a golfer.
I sensed it.
Yeah. So one thing that I did want to ask before we wrapped up was, do you think that with all of the shenanigans that went on with Ethereum, do you feel like that they will ever be held to account by the SEC, or do you think that they'll get a second free pass for now that a lot of the stuff that has happened has come out?
I thought about that yesterday. I honestly spent a minute to think about that. And what I came away with is maybe not the popular answer, but I think beware of what you wish for. Because if Ethereum is sued by the SEC, what does that do? And what if they lost? What if Ethereum loses? What does that do to the crypto space? So when people are saying, "Oh, why?" I agree. We need clarity, and if Ethereum is not, it should be a level playing field. But be careful about wishing ill upon your neighbor, because really, in the crypto space, we're all teammates in the big picture. Ethereum is our teammate. We may not like him. He might be a ball hog. He never passes, but he's still your teammate. And if he goes down with an injury, the whole team suffers.
Really good point.
Good answer. I think I could tell Eri really liked that answer the whole time that she was doing the nodding thing as you were giving that answer.
Yeah.
And Eri, one of the things that I wanted to ask you as well, with our messaging brigade, I believe you may be familiar with what we're doing. We're just trying to get people in the community to focus. Like we had, we're putting a lot of focus on trying to get John Deaton more interviews with politicians and any other influencers that we can. And we put out the Joe Rogan thing, and we ended up getting, I was actually surprised. We ended up getting 17,000 people that invite, or maybe some of them did it twice, but we had a good number of people. We don't know whether or not Joe's going to answer or not, but do you feel like that if we could come together on certain things like that, that would make our community stronger?
Oh, yeah, of course. I really liked what Jeremy said, though, about focusing on getting some funds together, because I would see if we could create a pact that might be very, very powerful.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. A pack, it would be right up the XRP armies. That's right up your alley, Scott. Something like that. And look, I know that I have some XRP or whatever it might be that I'd be more than willing to donate to help the cause. And everyone I talk to, they're always saying, even to me, they're like, hey, Jeremy, let me give you some XRP or this or that. And I'm always like, no. But there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help. And I think if they just had an easy avenue to do so, you might be able to raise some money. It's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think having that voice where it's needed, which is in DC, is really, really important. So that would be my 2 cents to your question.
Gotcha. All right. I don't want to keep y'all. We're at 9 o'clock. We should get a bonus 5 minutes after I fumbled the ball on the audio. And I sincerely apologize at the beginning. I was just so excited about this. I had 5 different tabs open. I didn't want to miss it. So I deeply appreciate both of you being here. And if there's any final questions, you guys answer them now or put them out there now. And I cannot thank both of you enough. You're 2 of my favorite people. Eri has been, ever since the first time I started watching her videos. And Jeremy, you have been coming on strong now as one of my favorites. And it was really an honor for y'all to come on and be able to meet with me and give me the opportunity to share with you guys tonight. So,
yeah, thank you, Scott. You do a great job. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, take care and be sure to tune in next week. We're going to have a special guest again next week. We're working on another co-host, and we'll let you guys know what's coming up. And last thing I'd like to say is don't forget, we are stronger together. Let's apply the law of synergy. That's a cool thing to do. All right. Thank you, Eri. Good night, everybody.